Inclusion-based advocacy for children with autism. What is autism? A summary of the topic. Autism, or autism spectrum disorder, refers to a range of conditions characterized by challenges with social skills, repetitive behaviors, speech and nonverbal communication, as well as by unique strengths and differences. We now know that there is not one autism but many types, caused by different combinations of genetic and environmental influences. Inclusion for autism. The practice of inclusion is based upon protecting children's access to education and benefiting from such practice. For those with ASD, proposed benefits often center on improved social acceptance and improved social communication, and peers play a critical role in these outcomes. Inclusion may reduce stigma, allow for social learning, increase social acceptance, and improve the social standing of students with ASD. A growing amount of evidence supports the value of educating students with ASD in an inclusive setting and involving peers in educational programming across the educational lifespan, that is, from preschool to post-secondary. Creating an inclusive environment for children may also include using the child's interests, strengths, and skills as tools for teaching, allowing them to have choices throughout their day, and providing additional support throughout transitions. Here are some key challenges for children. Interacting socially, emotionally, and communicating with others in the classroom environment. Comorbidity is another challenge. Children with autism have high rates of mental health concerns such as anxiety, depression, and stress disorders. Children need additional education and social support. Children also have behavior differences that serve as a sensory need and purpose for the child. Example, rocking, covering their ears. Sensory challenges in their environment, example, bright lights or loud noises, are also some of the key challenges. Following are the key challenges for families. Navigating services, resources, and support for their child that is often frustrating and full of gaps. Locating and receiving funding for therapies. Being an advocate for inclusion. Differing definitions and models of inclusion. Increased stress and burden managing their child's challenging behaviors and needs, needing to take time off for therapies and healthcare appointments for their child, communicating with educators and administrators who are not trained or knowledgeable about autism. We would also like to share some key challenges for educators. Educators working with frustrated, angry, or uncooperative parents. Parents, families, and caregivers of children with autism have had a difficult road and a plethora of challenges with raising their child, advocating for them, and integrating them into various settings. It can be challenging to work with these families to navigate the needs of their child. Lack of knowledge and training for working with children with autism, and a lack of specialized support staff in schools. Creating an inclusive environment for child with autism while meeting their needs. Collaborating with therapists, administrators, support staff, and families to meet the needs of the child with autism. Receiving the appropriate assistive technology to help support the child with autism. Impacts on children. Difficulty with joint attention impacts their communication and language skills, such as taking turns, expressing facial expressions, and remaining focused. Lack of focus, attention, and organization impacts their time management skills, emotional control, and frustration, which leads to a negative impact on their ability to self-regulate. Impaired social and emotional development as children are unable to recognize social cues. Impact on families. Poor sibling relationship, housekeeping, marital relationships, inability to meet the needs of other children because the parents are very busy supporting the child with ASD, finances, emotional, physical, and mental health of family members is impacted as well, lack of social interaction because the family is very much involved with their child and supporting their child, greater divorce rate. It could also lead to maternal anxiety and depression. Impact on educators and profession of early childhood education. Educators are faced by many challenges that impact their successes in a classroom setting. For example, one of the most common challenges is dealing with frustrated, uncooperative, and angry parents, which can impact the educator's ability to support the child effectively. Educators commonly deal with unsympathetic administrators and lack of support that is available to them. This impacts their ability to support children with exceptionalities while also supporting other children in the program. Time constraints during the day and an increase in the need of documentation prevents educators from incorporating effective strategies into the program to better support the child. Lack of resources and funding available to schools and organizations prevent them from supporting a child's needs and wants. Impact on social services. Lack of funding available to invest into organizations to provide support to children and their families. Gaps in research that prevent use and incorporation of early intervention programs. Multi-agency planning time and organization required. We would like to discuss the prevalence of this issue at a local level. Parents often feel a power differential in their interactions with the education system. Majority of educational professionals support inclusion, but they often report having limited experience and preparation to support students with ASD. Parents and families feel they can't voice their concerns, affecting their ability to successfully advocate for their children. Children with autism in Ontario schools have reported feelings of loneliness, social exclusion, and are also bullied. Lack of applied behavior analysis, ABA therapy in schools, and children are forced to enroll in specialized programs outside of school. In Ontario, school administrators vary in their endorsement of inclusion, and teachers' perceptions of support by administration for inclusion relate to their attitudes towards including students with ASD in their classrooms. In Ontario, parents who are more aware and advocate for inclusive education for their children receive more support from their schools and are linked to better resources. Educational research and practice are catching up with this philosophical stance that inclusive education for students with ASD has strong roots in social justice movements that aim to end discrimination towards individuals with disabilities. Peer attitudes toward individuals with ASD also impact the likelihood of social interaction. We have now reached the most important part of our presentation, where we'll talk about Autism Ontario. Their mission is to ensure that everyone with ASD is provided the means to achieve quality of life as a respected member of society. They are the province's leading source of information and referral on autism and one of the largest collective voices representing the autism community. They are composed of people who can speak to the key issues that impact Ontario individuals with autism and their families and loved ones. They intend to increase public awareness about autism and the day-to-day challenges faced by individuals on the spectrum, their families, and the professionals with whom they interact. This organization is made up of 25 affiliated groups in communities across the province, and they are called chapters. They are run by volunteers and staff who provide expertise and guidance to the organization and their communities. For example, Peel Chapter. The goals for these regional chapters are to provide information and education, supporting research, and advocating for programs and services for the autism community. Past work. Sobeys has created a shopping event to help people with autism by creating sensory-friendly shopping hours throughout their stores in Ontario. Every Wednesday between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. is designated sensory-friendly shopping. Sobeys stated that many people with autism are hypersensitive to lights and sounds. Sobeys wants to create a more pleasurable shopping experience by creating a more relaxing atmosphere. Current projects. Public Health Agency of Canada announces Autism Ontario awarded strategic fund to support autistic adults and their families in Ontario. They announced the Mental Health Matters project with their partners that are mentioned on the slide. This mental health promotion program is made possible by the Autism Spectrum Disorder Strategic Fund of the Public Health Agency of Canada and will roll out over the next 22 months in Ontario. two different adaptations to support adults on the spectrum, their families, and caregivers. Adapt to make accessible services. Translation curriculum into Tamil is one of the other goals as well.